No, it's me that's talking about it.
Brilliant.
Welcome to
My Guy Reviews, the podcast. Yes, I can hear you much better.
Do you turn your volume up?
I don't know. I don't think so. I played something through some fine. So I don't know.
Okay.
Tech.
So welcome to My Guy Reviews,
Yes.
the podcast.
Yes, we're back.
I'm My Guy Monkey, and I'm joined by My Guy Brig. Hello.
Hello.
And we're pretty much here to talk about something that's happened in the last week that got us a bit excited. But as a quick setup, it's kind of another pandemic special because obviously things have been going on differently since the pandemic stuff going on, lockdowns, and we've been having the phenomenon of live music being broadcast by celebrities and such. Yes. To keep everyone going. Sometimes it's popular, sometimes people are a bit miffed about it, but it's free music. You can't be too unhappy about it.
No, in your living room or your toilet, wherever you listen to your music, right? It's there.
Wherever you find your peace.
Exactly.
So, but there's a specific thing that started going, which is the Verzuz DJ battles.
Yes.
And two of our favourite rappers came onto that show recently, and that's got us excited enough to want to do this review.
I know.
We did do this review straight away, but we had a bit of troubles with it. We're having to re-record it now. Just full disclosure, we will be talking about stuff we've just talked about. It sounded like we've just for the first time, which is quite relevant for also the DJ battles as well, because because they're DJ battling, so they clearly pick their own songs.
Yes, they do. Yeah,
and then they act like it's.
Yeah, I think I guess the artist may go to. I think Swizz Beatz is there, so they might go to him. Look, here's the songs I want to do, and then Swizz looks at his and looks at Snoop's songs, and then he'll be like, okay, so I'll change your ordering around without them knowing so much what song the other person might be played, because there's a moment where it does become apparent that I think the songs were chosen because they one person sang about something, the other person sang about something, and they're very similar in their topic matter. And I think someone did that. I don't think the two artists know what the song they got about the next song. I think it came across that way, in my opinion, but it maybe not. I felt like, because Snoop was like, oh, I can't believe you went there with song number, or he's sitting down and then the beat drops and Snoop stands up and he goes, yo, I'm going to jam to this tune. That's what I felt like. Otherwise, you would know that the next track is X and the next track is this. Obviously.
So I think you've given away the artists already. You jumped ahead a bit. So let's get that out of the way. The two artists were DMX and Snoop Dogg, two of the greatest rappers of all time. But first of all, can you tell us about the series?
So it's basically
how it all began. Because I didn't do my research, so you know this stuff already.
You didn't even look into this.
You sent me a whole list of links and everything.
I sent you everything you needed to do just to look at it.
And I figured, well, he's got the links. He'll know all this already.
That's a good point. So there's a number of high-profile DJs. One of us is Swizz Beatz. Now, you might or may not recognize the name, but Swizz Beatz has done loads of like massive tracks, but he's also married to Alicia Keys.
That's nice.
Yeah, so obviously he's well into music. He married one of the biggest stars in the game and stuff. So basically it started off I think during the lockdown. Everyone's getting a little bit bored, what to do, and they came up with this idea. And I believe it was him and Timbaland who came up with the idea of having legendary, because they're both into it. So Timbaland's obviously worked with Mr. Misdemeanor earlier, Genuine, Aaliyah, Justin Timberlake, Nelly Furtado, like huge people. But they're more into hip hop and R&B, both of these guys. So what they've said is, let's get some of the hip hop styles of yesteryear, some relevant ones as well, currently still out there, but people who've like got catalogs that are very similar, and but it's not just hip hop stars. So they had John Legend versus Alicia Keys, both incredible singer-songwriters, like, but R&B kind of like they do the massive ballads and stuff. So they've said, let's pick two artists. I'm not sure how the artists are being picked. I didn't look into that too much, but then they've said, okay, they'll pick two artists, and then they would say, we're doing this thing where it's verses, but we're looking at just a verse of your song versus someone else's verse of a song. So in terms of like, we're not interested in that Snoop's had 20 albums and he's still relevant today, or X has only had like maybe 5 or 6 commercial albums that done really well. We're just like looking at your song, your hit single, or a feature that you've been on, and it's that verse versus another verse from another artist who's very similar to you, and that's why it's verses. So it'd be your 16 bars, 8 bars, whatever it is, versus this other person's bars, and then it's up to the audience to decide who won. I don't think the show says this person won. It's left to the audience member, which I think is really good, because it's a fun concert as well, because you can listen to old songs from back when they first started to new songs. It's just all sorts of stuff. So it's a great kind of it's a great free concert.
Yeah, I mean, I've only seen one so far, but I really enjoyed it. And yeah, it's a free concert, but obviously they only do like 1 or 2 verses from each song, but they have a chat and all that sort of thing as well in between.
Yes.
So have you listened to any others, or is this just the first one?
I've listened to a couple, but I haven't seen. This is the first one that I watched all the way through. Some of the other ones I've seen bits and pieces of, because I think this one's for me personally. I mean, I know their back catalogue really well for both these artists and some of the new songs. So I was more interested in that manner. But some of the other artists, there should be, like I said, so Jagged Edge, which is 112. So anyone who knows about R&B supergroups, there used to be 4 people. That used to be kind of like the norm for R&B supergroup, and then that R&B
like a boy band.
Exactly, a boy band. Boy band used to have 5 until one member left, and then you're 4. So they have a boy band versus boy band, but in hip hop and R&B world, that one was really good because they're very similar. Like there's a lot of Jagged Edge songs that 112 do. They do kind of ballady stuff, and it's because I grew up listening to a lot of their songs. That's what draws me to them. Then what would be maybe a really good one? Maybe the French Montana one was better, but I'm not that into French. I just know one song of his. So when he does the rest of his stuff, I'm not that interested. But then, then there could be someone else like Scott Storch. He's again, big celebrity, big time producer, and I know all of his songs, and I'll be jamming along. So yeah, it just comes down to the artist for me. Like if I know the person, I'm watching it.
Excellent.
If obviously I don't know that many songs of theirs, I'm not going to be that interested.
Yeah, obviously. And we're both DMX fans.
Yes.
And also you've got quite a few Snoop albums, and I've heard quite a few Snoop tracks. I'm a fan of the tracks themselves, although I don't have any albums. And that's why this one is that I didn't know anything about what this was going on, but you told me DMX and Snoop have done this. That's when I jumped in to hear about it. So, how excited were you? Let's hear about how excited you were, because that's why we're talking about it.
So when they first announced this, it was going to be Swizz Beatz versus Timbaland, and I was like, this is sick, because like Timbaland did tracks for obviously DMX, some Rough Rider stuff. Swizz has done stuff for like Jay-Z, and so they could just draw back on so many huge songs. That they could just kind of play, and so to me, when they did that, I was like, "This is awesome! This is such a good idea!" Like, we're all in lockdown, but that one they both did it like I think over a Skype call or a Zoom meeting or whatever. So it's not the same as this one. This feels like they've come into my home because it feels like a concert. The two of them are there in the same room.
Yeah. Because
So
they've gone to Snoop's house, did you say?
yeah, I think he says that at the start. I'm sure he says, this is his crib. So I'm
Yeah.
thinking that's Snoop's amazing house. And so when that happened, I just then thought, okay, so who are they going to do next? And they do RZA, they do DJ Premier, they do so many other people, Jill Scott, Erica Badu, and then when these two names came up, I was like, yes, finally, like two great rappers who've got like a lot of big songs, and obviously Snoop's got bigger longevity compared to DMX did, but I felt like DMX had enough songs that we knew, a lot of singles that have been used by even if you've seen Deadpool, his songs are all
Yeah.
over that as well.
Yeah.
But
Even the newer
Snoop's,
songs he used, I recognise. So
yeah, and Snoop's obviously, like you said before, has been on the Grand Theft Auto, so you're like
yeah,
listening to a Snoop song without even knowing it's a Snoop song until
exactly.
he
Like
performed
his
it.
first like 5 songs, just like the huge big hitters
Yes.
that are on every GTA, like scattered across several GTA games. So I know them off by heart, and they're just like, oh yes, these are the tunes. This is when I'm in Los Santos or
It takes you
LA.
back, doesn't it? It does take you back to
Yeah,
that time.
yeah, and I'm straight there. I love it. I love that sound. And then of course, DMX also starts with a lot of well-known tracks as well.
Yeah, I think you mentioned this last time was you felt that the start was a bit strong, but the middle for you got a bit weak, and then they ended stronger. And I always remember what this comedian once said. He goes, "Well, you always start and you open with your second best joke,
Yes.
because that's what you get. You get the audience in, and then obviously you end with your closer." And I think that's what they did. But I felt, because I heard a lot of DMX growing up, and I've heard a lot of Snoop. To me,
Yeah.
there wasn't that much filler. There's a couple of maybe I would have picked a few different songs personally for each one of them, but everything on there was just what I expected or hoped to have heard, and
Yeah.
boy did they deliver.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, it was great. I think what I was saying before was it started off quite slow, but they did use their big hitters. But it was kind of a bit awkward for them at first because they were obviously running to the track list, but trying to make out that it was like, oh yeah, I'm going to pull this one out of the bag
Yeah,
now,
yeah,
and
you have to
pull
say
that out of
what
the
it
bag,
is.
and it was a bit obvious that they were like just getting started. But then they as they started talking and stuff and having normal conversations, building up a rapport, they started getting going, and by the middle they were still well known tracks, but then it started moving to the party tracks where they were just having a good time with the audience, which was nice. And then by the end, they started to do the sort of actual battle tracks where they were sort of passing one back and forth and being a bit more like an actual rap battle where they're trying to one up each other slightly, but all in good fun.
Yes, what I loved about it was growing up in an era where um, so-called gangster rappers or people who said things about other rappers, who put people
Yeah,
down or didn't, or had beefs. These two just had so much respect for each other. Like there's moments where I think it's very early on, he says that we met, and obviously I think Snoop was already a star by then because Snoop had done a lot of Dr. Dre stuff before he released his first album, which was one of the biggest solo new artist albums of all time. But he says, and Snoop said to him, like, "Get at me, dog." And he goes, "I took that line and I turned it into a song." And it's stuff like that. It's such a cool little story. Like these two never had a song together,
yeah,
but they had respect for each other. They were singing along to each other's songs.
yeah.
There's
Good,
just so
yeah, good
much
stuff.
love in that. It was great.
Yeah, I think even Snoop has a couple of songs where he relates to God and sort of prayer and stuff, which obviously DMX also has. And the first
Yes.
thing DMX does when he comes in,
Oh,
he says, "Can we pray first?" And he has a prayer
Snoop asks
first.
him, yeah, it does, doesn't he? And that, yeah. So a lot of X songs, albums have a prayer. I think he first used to do a Damien thing as well. So where he
Yes,
talk about
there's always
the devil, yeah,
there's like a Damien collection of songs as well, where he
yes,
seems to get the devil talking back to him, doesn't he?
yeah, because he does the two voices
But
where he's talking and the devil's trying to convince him to do something
you
else.
know, this is real. This is his life. You know, he talks about a lot of crazy stuff that he does in his life, but that battle between good and evil as well at the same time, and wanting to do right and do right by your family and things like that.
Exactly. Yeah. I think what's good is there's a moment where I think they just relaxed. Both of them. I think you're right. They started off, they were a little bit like, okay, we're just doing our songs, but then they really got into it themselves. Like, you know, they're in their own concert as well, because I almost felt Snoop would stand up and he'd like to do the shimmy, the little shake.
Excited by each other.
Yeah, and DMX was doing stuff. It was great, because I think at first there's always that kind of like, we have this great admiration for each other, great respect. But then when you start hearing that rapper or that artist right next to you sing, you just get up.
And a party.
And that was great.
You can imagine also when they first meet up as well, it's probably a bit like meeting your hero, meeting each other's heroes. Even though you've met before a little bit, it must be a little bit difficult at first in that same way. Because, you know, at the end of the day, you're always the normal person still, even when you're famous. Everyone else probably feels more famous than you. You still got to get past that barrier, but they make such a connection by just talking, which is why this is good, just to hear the conversations the things they say in between to each other. And although there was one disappointing thing they did talk about, and that's that they would take their tops off if they got a certain number of subs, but they didn't do it. They never got there again.
No, I think you mentioned this last time. Yeah, X is putting a little bit of weight, not a lot. And
I think you mentioned that first. Don't pin that on me, Dad.
They laughed it off. And Snoop's, I think X said, or Snoop said, if we get 10 million, well, you know, he'll take his top off, I'll take my top off, something along those lines. And it's just a bit of bounce, because I think I mentioned this after that was I saw DMX in 2014 in a movie by Chris Rock called Top 5, and then he was on the TV show Fresh Off the Boat. So I haven't seen him around for about 4 or 5 years. So what I was surprised is they both look the same. The face has not aged a bit, and they're both in their late 40s, 49 and 48 respectively. They do not look like people who are aging to be about 50. They look incredibly young. It's just, I don't know what it is, but they look amazing.
Just like myguy, who the channel is named after, which we mentioned before as well.
Shout out to
myguy out there. myguy energy.
Yeah, he's been, what's he called, Benjamin Buttoning his whole life. He's just getting younger and younger every time we see him.
Younger. And also you said before as well that their voices as well are still spot on. The DMX still does his growl.
He does, It's considering like it's about 2 hours. So the videos were 2 hours, but I think they start singing after X does the prayer, and so from about 6 minutes on all the way to about 2 hours in, because they did some freestyles near the end. That's a long time to be rapping, just because you've not got a massive break. Because if one person does his spaces 16, you've got the chorus, you've got like a minute or 2 minute break, and then it's your song again. And then
they probably did about half an hour to an hour each of actual rapping.
Yeah.
So, because they did have the conversations in between quite a bit.
But if your song is about a minute and a half, I think the idea of the show is you do 20 songs.
Okay.
So if it's a minute and a half, you're right. It's about half an hour, 40 minutes. It's still a lot to get through.
It is a lot.
It's quick. It's not like you do the whole song, have a break.
Yeah. I mean, even if you're singing or not singing, like just being there for 2 hours can be wear down on your stamina, especially as we've all been stuck indoors. We're not used to persevering so much. It's hard work. And like you said, he's we spoke about this one last time as well. DMX is out of the two, DMX is the one that's looking a bit more aged now with his sort of body shape, shall we say. But once he got going, like he could still put in the dance moves and put in the emotion, put in the vex, and put his all into the songs.
Yeah, I think when he did the prayer to start off with, and then there's because he's almost rapping it, and he says his verse and verse, and you could tell in his voice he just sounded the same, and then he gets straight into his hits like where my dog's at, what's my name, and get at me dog, and then so you got these three, stop being greedy, you got some huge songs for him at the start, and then just when you think, okay, he might be wavering, he then does like X gonna give it to you. That's gonna be one of his like biggest Deadpool's
picks
kind
it
of
up.
that song and and it just kicks it to next gear. And I love Snoop because then Snoop starts dancing and he's like, yeah, I'm loving this. And Snoop is doing his songs and X is trying to sing along to that. It's amazing.
It's all about the energy. For me, music, that's what music is about, is getting that energy, getting that flow. And they both got it still, so it's great. Yeah,
I think plus their songs are pretty much, even though like there's songs like Slipping in there, which is the subject matter it's very dark and what X was going through at that time, or some of the other stuff, some of the other songs. But then you've got the kind of like the anthems, like you've still got the Party Up in Here, Where the Hood At. For Snoop, you got Pimp, Ain't Nothing But G Thing, Drop It Like It's Hot. Next up, there's just so many great songs on there.
Saying that, you remind me that actually I think it seemed to me when they started talking about the darker stuff that's when they get their energy, because that's when it's like that's when you persevere through hard times. That's like coming from the soul. It's something that really does energize you. Like you can talk about partying and all that, but it's not going to mean anything without that sort of struggle, what you've gone through.
Yeah. And
I felt like that's when they started getting more energy and that's as they built up to the actual party hits.
Because I think that's when Snoop said when he did Slippin', he goes that's one of the realest things you've ever written. And I think X said the same, and he goes I'll drop one that I did as well. And I think sometimes like talking about your struggles, getting those pen to paper, and then actually releasing that, you without knowing it, you're helping someone else.
Yeah,
because someone else who's going through similar situations who thinks I can't succeed, or I've got all these things coming up against me. How am I gonna? I can't see the light. And sometimes music is a way for those people to kind of like get through those hard times, which you did, and you persevered, and look, you've become this incredibly successful person. And accidentally, you've become a person who people follow and lead. You're leading people, and you didn't even know that.
Amazing, yeah. And then it can all go downhill again. That's life.
Yes,
that's life. You just keep going.
So I think the next thing we spoke about briefly was like, if obviously there was I think it was on Saturday last week, so there'll be another one soon. But we talked about who would we want to see on the next kind of all time kind of any kind of verses, and I think you came up with some good ideas as well.
Yeah, I came up with S Club 7, but I couldn't remember who I wanted to put them with. I remembered I thought of someone now, and that was Hearsay, but they only had one album, so I don't think that'll work.
No.
So definitely you would probably go back to who did you say?
So I said Club? Steps originally.
Steps, yes. Steps would be better with S Club
because they've both got maybe 2 or 3 albums worth of stuff there. They got some pops, but I think we also said like Boyzone versus Take That. Westlife. Or do a 3-way, putting Westlife in there as well, because they've got big
3-way
back catalogue. Yeah,
or as it's boy bands, why not get a 5-way?
Put in 5
each
as well. I think it becomes too difficult. If you got more than 2, because then you're waiting too long for your song.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it has to be 1v1, but a boy band would be good.
And one of the great things about this one we've just been talking about is that it was 2 people connecting. So it would be best if you had just 2 people able to have that connection again. So I think I mentioned Blur and Oasis, which you agreed with, just because they were rivals back in the day, and then in the 90s as well. And since then, I checked. One of the Gallaghers did work with Damon Albarn on, obviously Damon Albarn from Blur,
Yeah.
the Gallaghers from Oasis. They did work on a track with Gorillaz, so they have worked together since.
Okay.
Because obviously Gorillaz have loads of different people come onto there, loads of featuring guest artists. So they've worked with loads of people.
Yeah.
Again, hip hop. They even worked with Snoop, so hip hop, indie, everything.
Because they've got a rapper in their group, haven't they? In Gorillaz, because there's every so often there's a rap song in there. But
yeah, they have. They're kind of a synthesized group, so it's kind of Damon Albarn's cartoon group, and the characters are made up. But they do have, so they bring in other rappers, I think. But there are some mainstays that started it all off as well. Yeah.
I think another good one, because if you're still going down kind of like the pop route, obviously you'd have Backstreet Boys versus NSYNC, because they were two of the biggest bands of all time at that time. Obviously, Justin Timberlake wouldn't do it because he's just a superstar by himself. So
Timberlake and Nickelback.
Oh my god, that would be perfect.
I think they see each other.
Or I think you came up with someone. How about Slipknot and Limp Bizkit?
Oh yeah, I said Limp Bizkit and Korn, but that's because they worked together back in the day anyway. But I think that's a better idea. So yeah, Slipknot and Limp Bizkit maybe.
Because there's a bit of kind of like it's new metal. It kind of goes that there. I'm sure there's a huge influence of Limp Bizkit by the things that Slipknot been doing for years.
I think they're quite different, but there are definitely they'd have things to talk about anyway.
Yeah, because I'm sure they've done loads of concerts where they've been like not Glastonbury, but Aussie Fest or something, where they've done festivals together at different times, and they'll be like, "Oh, I was in the crowd listening to you on this, and you guys were amazing." I imagine
Rage Against the Machine and Slipknot. I saw them at a Reading once in the same set.
Rage would be good.
They're back together at the moment, aren't they? Doing some music.
So the next kind of like in terms of rappers, I think I mentioned like Eminem. I'd love to see Eminem on this, but then we were kind of stumped on who would kind of come
struggling with
so
who else.
The only person I could think of was Lil Wayne, because Wayne's got so many like featured artist songs. He's got so many of his own songs. He's got just so many verses everywhere that he could easily, I think, go up against Eminem. It's a case of like having. The problem is like artists such as Drake, who's like maybe the biggest pop star in the world now. It's who does he go up against? Because he sings a lot of his songs as well. So you need someone who does the same. While Eminem will just be like spitting bars at him, and then it's not really the same. You have to have music that's quite similar. So
you have to have personalities that go well together as well.
Yeah. So if Whitney Houston and Mariah Carey could go against each other, somehow they could play some old Whitney songs, that would work. Because Whitney would kill her. But yeah, something like that would be good. I think it's a great idea. I don't know who they'll have in the next few weeks, because I don't know how they pick the names. If the two of them sit there and be like, I got this person and he owes me a favor. Let me phone him up. Can you do the show for me?
That must be how a lot of it works. You have to be able to talk.
All of these, the first few, because I was looking at the list and I was like, most of these people Swizz Beatz would know, or Timbaland knows, either because they worked with them quite recently, or because in the case of John Legend and Alicia Keys, he's married to one of them. And Swizz Beatz and John Legend do loads of stuff together. So in some cases, it's just that they know these two people.
Yeah. So we'll see. I mean, I think I mentioned before as well that even in the comments, I know even in the description on their YouTube upload of this, they were like, "This is probably the best matchup. This is the biggest one yet."
Yes.
And that's a bit. There's a bit of a tricky thing to say when you've had all these other people that you've invited to do these things, and you say these are the best though, but they are the best so far. So how they're going to top it, I don't know. I don't know.
I don't know how long this will carry on, because it might be something like, okay, we'll get a full year of this and it's amazing, but then you'll run out of artists with enough of a legacy of songs to look into, that they'll have to start shortening the show maybe, or there'll be a lot of like, oh, well, we released an album and there was a song on there, on the B side, it was this one, I'm going to do this first, where people may not know the songs as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's a problem that was coming up when I was coming up with rapper names like Dre, and you were saying they don't have a big enough playlist. But you could
Dre
maybe
doesn't have his own
no,
playlist. That's the problem.
features in a lot of stuff, but
Dre gets other people to write his stuff. Like, I love Dre.
producer.
But yeah, everyone just wants to write for him.
But if you had minor artists, you could artists haven't got as long a thing. You could always get a couple in, like two pairs in. Maybe come one after the other to make it the full 2 hours. Or maybe you can mix and match a bit. Make it a bit longer. Excuse me.
Yeah. If you had two different artists versus two different artists, so they'd have 4 people, and then one person would go first versus the other one, then the third person. Yeah, I guess there's merit to that.
Yeah, thanks.
It's not for us to fix and to make it work. It's for them. We're just giving them ideas. Here's an idea.
Yeah. It's an idea. Yeah. Get more.
And then they could pick their own songs on the spot. I think the reason why you have to have your playlist is because like Swizz Beatz is there. He's the live DJ for the day. He needs to get that playlist ready so he can put the songs on one after the other. Because you can't just be like, okay, let me think, I'm going to rap this song, and Swizz is like, oh, wait, I don't even have that song. Like, how am I going to get that one MP3 or that file from somewhere?
You think they would have the whole library of, at least the songs that they're likely to sing. Like, all their album songs, at least, and singles.
Yeah. But then you have to still try and whiz through maybe, 50 songs or something, if it's 10 songs an album.
Yeah, and also you've got to get in the right place as well, because they've picked the certain verses that they're going to do.
Yes.
So that's going to take time. That's true. Yeah.
So I think you have to give up your playlist firsthand.
Yeah, which is why it's DJ, Verzuz DJ rather than Verzuz just anything else. They're technically they're DJing their own set that they put together.
Yeah,
and then they just happen to be rapping over top of it. Sometimes you can hear. You're basically hearing the same track, just like they're playing it, but they're like rapping over top of it. But it sounds like.
I think the first time when Snoop does "What's My Name," that was one of the most iconic songs of all time, and lots of people have done various versions of that. Like Eminem did an amazing version of it. Jay-Z's done one. X obviously's done one. Jermaine Dupri and loads of others. But so. When he did his one, and then X did his one, his first verse on "What's My Name" is very short, and so Snoop says, "I thought you were gonna do verse 2 because I think he was just getting into it." He does Gin and Juice, but I feel like in certain songs, because the chorus to the first verse might be quite short, so maybe you have to look at extending that as well. That'd be cool.
Yeah, they might have had to mix up a bit. Yeah, I guess they're on 2 different pages there when it comes to the startup.
But it's a great idea, and it's a free concept for to be able to see these 2 artists live. Obviously, they do 20 songs. Obviously, they do the whole thing. They wouldn't just do a verse each. I mean, that would firstly maybe never happen unless if they were touring together and had an album to support.
Yeah.
So to have that and to see that free of charge on whatever streaming app or way you can access it is incredible. For free public, it's amazing.
Pretty value for money, that was. Yeah, I have to say.
So I guess the most controversial question I have for you is who won? So obviously during the show they don't announce a winner. I've seen some others. It's up to the audience member, the listener.
Don't they usually
won, in your opinion?
Don't they announce the actual winner from the audience, or not at all ever?
I don't think they have. I think it's just left to you to decide who you think won.
I mean, it's a difficult one, this one. Who actually won is very hard to say. because they were just being friendly, you know. They're both winners because they're just nice to each other. They weren't really battling or fighting. It was just great to see them working together. But I guess near the end, when the Snoop wanted to sort of encourage to do some freestyling, I think DMX is more into writing and having that comfort zone of having written a song.
Written it, yeah.
Before rapping, whereas Snoop is a bit more able to do the freestyle. So if you'd based it on that last tiny section, then obviously Snoop might get it. But if we're taking the whole thing, then it's really hard to say. I can't call it.
So you got to sit on the fence.
Well, I don't know how else we can do it. I mean, you're not going to pick one, are you? How can you?
I'm gonna pick one.
Well, in that case, I know who I'm going to pick. You tell me first.
No, because I asked you the question. This doesn't work like that.
I'll pick the opposite.
Well,
Obviously.
Clearly, the winner is the audience. We're the winners in all of this.
Oh, okay. We're the winners. The winner is you.
Yes. To be able to listen to. No, you're right. I think it
True.
comes down to like which artists you listen to the most.
Yeah.
Regardless of how they perform on the day or whatever song it is. Because you know more of their songs, I think you would traditionally pick that person.
Yeah.
For me, if it comes down to like longevity, then Snoop wins. But Snoop's also branched out into doing TV stuff. He's done a lot of like Sir David Attenborough style commentaries as well.
Snoop's amazing. He's all over the place.
Exactly, and so for that, Snoop wins. X kind of did the music, went away, did some movies, and then kind of he's chosen a different path. So musically, he's not sustained that past the first 5, maybe 6 albums. The first 5 were all #1 albums, and he set a record for that. I think it's only been equal so far, like to have 5 albums all debut #1 on the Billboard charts. That's what DMX has done.
Okay.
Something that I think only one other artist has been able to achieve, or 2 other artists maybe have achieved the same sort of level of every time you release an album, it's #1. So in that way, those 5 albums had so many hit singles for me personally. So when he's doing, it's Get At Me Dog, even though Snoop's got Gin and Juice, which is my fave, or even when Snoop does What's My Name, I still prefer DMX's What's My Name. So for me, like, because I listen to more X, for me, X wins because I just know more of his songs. But overall, they were so good. I can't say one person's better than the other. They knew all their verses.
I mean,
They were dancing along. I felt like I was there in his house with him.
Brilliant. Just not moving. Just chilling.
Myself. Yeah, just sitting in the background.
I was just really nervous. I didn't move. I was just watching. didn't say anything.
When X says "Get At Me, Dog," I'm like, "Yo, X, I'm here."
Let's just go to the toilet.
Snoop's like, "Hey, do you want some gin and juice?" I'm like, "I'm all right. I got some. Thanks."
I've got my juice. I'll just stick with that. I think for me, like you say, they're different artists. So DMX, all of the tracks, I know slightly more tracks from DMX than I do Snoop, but all the tracks I know from DMX are mostly from hearing albums, like sitting in my room listening to an album. Yeah. Whereas the other side is the Snoop songs are the ones that I hear out in the wild. I hear out on the GTA soundtracks.
Exactly.
And they're such classic hip hop tunes. But at the same time, DMX, when you were just saying about him not releasing as many albums, like he's kind of said it. Maybe he said everything he has to say in those 5 albums. Maybe he's got more of a honed message, and every single one of his albums seems to tell that message in a powerful way. Whereas Snoop is more just chilled out, which is a great message in itself, but he hasn't got a specific message all the time that goes through every song. So therefore, he's a lot more spread out. But he's still got a good message of just chill and be nice to people, or shoot each other. I don't.
He's got the 5 kind of main studio albums that all debuted at #1. But so he then had Year of the Dog, which again was a main studio album. But then he went independent, or he had his own kind of bloodline and then he a record label, and he then released 2 further albums. That's DMX. So he has released some more, but none of them I actually know anything about. Like I know just his first kind of 5, 6. That's what I mean. Like, but Snoop, I think even if I sat at home and I went to my parents' house and Snoop Dogg was on TV, my parents would recognize him more than they'd recognize DMX. I think he's more recognizable. He's transcended just music.
Yeah, and he's such a nice guy as well. So whenever you see him, he's just so connectable with anyone. He's a lovely guy.
I'm sure my mom and dad are sitting there, sipping on their gin and juice, rolling out in their low riders, having no idea who created this song or who's the song about. But
just like me sometimes,
when you're like, whoa, that's a Snoop song.
That's a Snoop song. What? I know all these tracks. You tell me I don't know Snoop. I know all these tracks. GTA, Los Santos, West Coast San Andreas. You got it. Yeah.
Brilliant. Tell us what you guys think as well, because this is the biggest matchup so far. I mean, there's great matchups, but in terms of like just pure kind of hip hop so far in this style that they've done, I think this is the biggest one.
And tell us what other artists I think as well.
Yeah, who else you'd love to see? Because if they come up, we might review one of them. If we get enough comments and they say, oh yeah, it'd be great to see Joe Cole versus Kendrick Lamar, or Chance the Rapper, whoever it is.
You know what? If we just get 10 views, I'll take my top off.
Yes. And then you can do that for the next show. You can sit there with your top off.
Yeah.
For the next podcast. Perfect.
Enjoy, everyone.
And if we get 20 hours...
I could have my top off now.
If we have 20 hours sit in my underwear, there you go.
Excellent.
Brilliant. Great show. Loved it. It's free. Can't really complain. Considering
4 stars.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Get to the rating bit, but you've already given it the 4 stars. Brilliant.
4 stars. Go to the cinema and watch it.
Go to the cinema, exactly. With your top
and if it's not on at the cinema, tell them to put it on. Petition them to put it on.
Firstly, open that cinema.
Then... Oh, our cinemas are open today. The Cineworld cinemas are finally open today. So because this is on the day of recording anyway. This will slightly be out of date instantly. But the cinemas from the lockdowns is finally opening. They open like the beginning of this month at the moment, beginning of July, and it's now just become August. So there's Cineworlds who are delaying it also opening. So, but we're not going to do any extra stuff. We're just going to stick on topic because obviously we've both got a lot of constraints at the moment due to lockdowns and busy lives, and we don't get
knocking on my door.
Obviously, we still don't have a Patreon, so no one pays us. So we
one day
we've got to keep working. So.
Yes, exactly. No, but thanks for listening as always. Tell a friend, subscribe, all that cool jazz.
Yes,
and you're going to tell us how they can contact us.
Look in the description. It's myguy. Pretty much anything you'll find it. And sometimes it's myguy_reviews. Sometimes it's just myguy reviews. So just look in the description, check which is which. And I do try to use all of those services just to keep an eye out to see what you're requesting.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, thanks for all the support and the love. And thanks for listening.
Yeah, okay. Thanks for talking as well. Cheers, Doug.
Yeah, thanks. Bye.
No, it's me that's talking.
Brilliant. My Guy Reviews, the podcast